Club, B. Scott from Hiram 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 Club, do the Hiram Club, do the Hiram Club.
All right, welcome to the B Block Podcast. We are doing this thing live on YouTube, coming straight off of the Chiefs-Chargers game out in Brazil. Chargers take that game 27-21. It was actually a really good game. One of the reasons why I wanted to come on here was because I was anticipating us having a really fun and interesting start to the NFL season between the Thursday night game with the Eagles and Cowboys, which had all the right ingredients, the animosity, the nastiness. I ain't really like the spit, and we'll get to that in just a second or in a little bit after we talk about this game. But I really wanted to react to how the season started, and then, of course, look ahead to what we might be looking at and what might be in store for us with the Texans and the Rams opening the season. So, or opening the Texan season, at least on Sunday. So really looking forward to that. But like this game right here, man, just off top, like the thing that stands out the most about Chiefs Chargers for me, obviously the Chargers won the game and it was a close enough game for you to say it was a pick 'em. But y'all correct me if I'm wrong, and again, I appreciate anybody that's watching on YouTube, and of course, if you catch this on the audio only version, come check us out on YouTube, the B Block Podcast. But the big thing that stood out about this for me is the Chargers are better than the Chiefs. Like y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I can remember doing a show with Ron the Show Hughley, and shout out to Foolish Club Media. I know that they're doing wall-to-wall Chiefs content probably right now with the Chiefs losing and everything. So shout out to Foolish Club Media, a lot of Kansas City folks over there. But doing this show with Ron the Show Hughley a couple of weeks ago, and we had somebody text in to Sports Radio 610 that the Texans had by far a better roster than the Chiefs. And in a moment, it struck us both like there's no way that they have a by far and a way better roster. And then I'm sitting up there looking at the Chiefs starters and like specifically their wide receiving core. And of course, Rashee Rice is out for 6 games with a suspension. And they're like, man, Pat's going to be throwing the ball to Hollywood Brown, to Juju McSchuster, and the kid that got hurt by, I'm already forgetting my kid's name from Texas, but the kid from Texas that got hurt that ran into Travis Kelce, and it's like that's it. Like that's his receiving core. Not exactly giving you a whole lot of confidence there. So like I'm looking at that thinking, man, I don't know if Patrick Mahomes really got the horses, especially with Rashee Rice out. And then, of course, you look up and by way of friendly fire, 3 plays into the game, you are without a key weapon. And they all of a sudden just look pedestrian. Now, credit to them, credit to the Chiefs for kind of figuring things out, kind of getting it together. After really being stagnant early on in that game. But for me, like early on, it struck me how reliant the Chiefs seem to be on simply the greatness of Patrick Mahomes, of Andy Reid, the ghost of Travis Kelce, who I know scored. But up until that drive, it felt like the only time where you really saw him was accidentally injuring a teammate and getting slapped in the face by former Texan great Teair Tart. And who knew where Teair Tart was and that Teair Tart would show up in such a prominent way in this game. But he both slaps Travis Kelce, kind of gets away with it because only gets a penalty and doesn't get ejected. And then he's the one that bats down the 2-point conversion later on that, prevents prevents the Chiefs from tying the game. So he ended up playing a very pivotal role, and you could argue that he should not have been in the game at that point. Like, if you go back to the previous night where Jalen Carter gets where Jalen Carter gets ejected, before they even really get started, and he gets ejected for the spit. You would think, and look, I'm completely in support of that. Like, you can't have people out here spitting on people. I don't care what provoked them exactly. Dak Prescott did not spit on him. That man did not need to spit on Dak Prescott. And I don't care if he spat in this direction. We'll get to that in a little bit. But if Jalen Carter's getting ejected for spitting on Dak Prescott the night before, you would figure that a straight. I know they said it was open hand, and that was the reason why that Tier Tart was allowed to stay in the game. But you go straight open hand to somebody's face like that, a little bit of a wind up. And I understand why he was frustrated. It seemed like Travis Kelce was still pushing him after the play was over with. I understood him trying to kind of establish himself there, like, hey, man, this is not what we're going to do. But a full slap to the face, I would have thought if the spit gets you an ejection, that would have got you an ejection. But it didn't. It didn't. And I'm going to be honest, man, that surprised me. I was surprised to see that he was still in the game. But he was. So, and look, I don't know if I'm nervous or what, but I couldn't remember Xavier Worthy's name to save my life earlier. But that ended up being huge. Losing Xavier Worthy in this game ended up being extremely important, because that is, and Andy Reid has talked about it, that's somebody that they really want to rely on and lean on and have to be a big part of their offense. So the Chiefs lose Xavier Worthy earlier in the game. The Chargers don't lose Tier Tart later in the game, who, look, I'm not trying to overplay how important Tier Tart is supposed to be, but it ended up being really important in this game, just for no other reason for making that play, and the fact that he probably wasn't supposed to be in the game anyway. But overall, man, I found myself by and large underwhelmed by the Chiefs as an overall unit. But then, like, Patrick Mahomes just doing the Patrick Mahomes things. Kind of just it felt like, it did feel like toward the end of the game. I would even say the middle of the game, right? So that last drive, okay, where the rookie, the last drive of the first half, where the rookie mistakenly doesn't go out of bounds and gives the Chiefs an opportunity to kick that field goal, and they do that. And then to start the second half, when the Chargers have the ball, but they essentially go 3 and out. They give it away real quickly, and you got the Chiefs right there ready to respond. That felt like when the tide was going to turn. Like, it didn't really matter as much, the fact that the Chiefs weren't as talented, did not appear to be as talented. Like, on both sides of the ball, I felt like the Chargers looked like the more, not just the more ready team, but just the overall better team. So I mean, maybe even credit the Chiefs for keeping it as close as they did. They did not look like they matched up and measured up to the Chargers. So that, y'all tell me, y'all let me know, but that stood out to me immediately, that the Chargers, from man to man, top to bottom, looked to be like the better team. Now, I don't want to get too far into this thing without shouting out my guy, Justin Herbert. Okay. Justin Herbert, I feel like, showed us why it is so hard to quit Justin Herbert. I know that at this point now, he's a little bit of, I won't say a polarizing figure, because I don't know how polarizing you can be playing for the Chargers. I don't want to overplay it, but whenever you see quarterback rankings or quarterback conversations, and you see people, you'll see this kind of pushback whenever he's put in kind of this top tier or wherever his ranking it is. A lot of people feel like it's higher than it should be, or there's a lot of people who don't get the Justin Herbert fascination. And I gotta admit, and you might already know this about me, I'm part of the problem. I am a part of the Justin Herbert propaganda machine that exists. And look, I'm far from the most prominent person, but I am somebody that perpetuates the narrative about Justin Herbert. I am part of the problem. But I feel like this was a great example, and we've seen plenty of examples of it, right? They talked about it on the broadcast on how nobody has passed for this many yards in the first 5 seasons of their career. Nobody's done as many as Justin Herbert. Um, I feel like he showed a big reason why it is so hard to quit him, and that's from the arm strength, that's from the mobility, that's from the toughness. I think there's a certain level of toughness and competitiveness that he doesn't necessarily get credit for. I don't know if it's the look on his face or his disposition or what it is exactly, but Justin Herbert was excellent in this game. And of course, that run at the end to kind of seal the deal, I think was, a perfect illustration of it. Of like, look, he's been out here dealing, but what's it gonna take to kind of seal this game at the end here? It's gonna be Justin Herbert picking up the first down with his legs, and sure enough, that's what he did. But 25 or 34 for 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Looks like his passer rating was 131. I mean, I just thought he was excellent. I thought he was excellent in this game. Outplayed Patrick Mahomes, looked like the better quarterback. Showed you why it's hard to quit him. I know a lot of people feel like he's overrated. I know a lot of people feel like he's overhyped. I know a lot of people feel like he has not done enough in meaningful moments to justify the way that people talk about him. But I was saying this on the radio earlier today. I was on In the Loop with my guys, Reginald Atatula, John Lopez, Figgy Fig, and we were talking about this game. We're kind of looking ahead to it. And I just thought that this whole season represents Justin Herbert, an opportunity for Justin Herbert to justify the hype, to justify the narrative, to justify people thinking more highly of him than what he's actually proven, certainly from a team standpoint. Like he's got the individual accolades, he's got the individual highlights, he's got the measurements, if you will, right? The tangibles, if you will. But where's that playoff win, right? You got walked down by Trevor Lawrence a few years back, by CJ Stroud last year. People are waiting on the Justin Herbert fascination, the Justin Herbert phenomenon to turn into some actual meaningful football, some winning. And you just have not seen that. I thought that this season, and specifically opening up the season against the Chiefs in Brazil, that one game is not going to change the narrative. One really good performance is not going to completely change the narrative, but it can certainly set the tone. I believe that they could set the tone with a strong showing in Brazil, which they obviously did, with a victory over the Chiefs in Brazil, which obviously they did. That they could start to again set the tone and begin to change the narrative. It's going to have to happen in the playoffs. They're going to have to actually do more than just, like, think about it. They had that graphic up there how 7 of their last 8 matchups had ended in one score games, but who won them all? Who was 7-1 in those matchups up until tonight? It was the Chiefs. It was advantage Chiefs. No matter how close it had been, no matter how impressive Justin Herbert looks, and all of these other things that are, that are impressive, like, it was still advantage Chiefs. So yeah, man, to me, this is an opportunity, or was an opportunity, to set the tone. I thought they did that. The rookie Amari in Hampton, his numbers aren't impressive, and he had that moment at the end of the second quarter where he did not get out of bounds. But I was surprised to see him featured as much as he was. I thought, like, once I saw Najee Harris out there, know he missed a lot of offseason time and had the issue with his eye after the 4th of July. But I wasn't expecting them to rely on the rookie in the run game as much as they did. And I thought he held his own. Numbers aren't as impressive, but I thought he held his own. Quentin Johnston kind of coming along. I don't know if he's ever going to be as impressive or fully justify, some of the hype that was surrounding him going into his draft, but seems like that's coming along. Lad McConkey, Keenan Allen. I mean, they just. Hey, I know Keenan Allen had an uncharacteristic drop or two, but of course had a touchdown. Quentin Johnson had 2 touchdowns. Just an overall better supporting cast, like offensively. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, okay? But if you take into account that Justin Herbert is clearly a quarterback that you rather have than not, clearly has some special qualities, you get Justin Herbert, and then this cast of characters, to me, is way better, much more preferable. So I think that you saw from this game that the Chargers are better than the Chiefs. It's gonna be my hot take of the night is that the Chargers are actually bad. I don't know if they win in the division. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes got some like, if there's just something about the greatness of Patrick Mahomes, something about the greatness of a Super Bowl champion that they're able to like will themselves to a division title, or if the Chargers actually win the division, if the you know, like I don't know, maybe the Broncos actually win the division, but the Chiefs are like right there as a wild card and the scariest wild card that you'll ever find. But I know based off of this game and based off of the players that I saw on Friday night on the YouTube, that the Chargers look like they got the better team than the Chiefs. And Justin Herbert definitely showed us why it's so hard to quit him. Uh, I wrote down here that the Chiefs looked underwhelming. I kind of went through all of that already. Like, I think I took for granted the Chiefs. Like, when we had these conversations in the offseason about who were the upper echelon teams, and I'm not saying that the Chiefs are not, but I feel like it's a little bit of a lazy assumption to just assume that because the Chiefs been there that they're gonna be there again. Like this is gonna play itself out in the coming weeks. We're gonna find out how good the Chiefs are. But the team that I watched tonight did not feel like that juggernaut that we talk about in the offseason of like, oh, it's Ravens, Bills, Chiefs in the AFC, and we'll see if the Bengals can get back there with Joe Burrow, or if the Texans can be a team that factors in, or if the Broncos are the up and comer, or if it's the Chargers, or like everybody else is on the outside looking in of Chiefs, Bills, Ravens. I got a hard time. I mean, I understand again, like just off of GP, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, obviously Travis Kelce is still there. Like, I understand that like they got the respect, but that did not look like a talented roster. Y'all let me know. Astro saying that the Chiefs are 2-3 in 2025, by the way. Not off to a great start. Not off to a great start at all. Like honestly, do you think that is we've been having this conversation about the Texans over the last couple of weeks? Do they have a Super Bowl roster, right? Like when the 53-man roster comes out. And I had this conversation on the drive again, like, man, I don't know if it's a Super Bowl, right? It feels like a Super Bowl defense. Doesn't necessarily feel like a full-on Super Bowl roster until I see different, until they prove different. Astro mentioned, man, Chiefs are 2-3 in 2025. Do the Chiefs feel like a Super Bowl? Does that look like a Super Bowl roster? What you saw out there? You got Tranquil and Chris Jones over there fighting on the sideline because Chris Jones gave up contain and allowed Justin Herbert to get outside and and basically ice the game. Travis Kelce out there looking old and slow, taking out Xavier Worthy, perhaps their most important weapon, especially with Rashee Rice out. And again, I know Travis scored, but dude, man, he they just that is a Yeah, that is not that does not look like a Super Bowl roster. Astro also mentions that it's always a good week when the Chiefs and the Cowboys lose. I feel like that's good for the overall general public. I think like the Cowboys fans, Chiefs fans will disagree, but the Cowboys have been the team that people love to hate for a long time. And I think that the Chiefs have become that team over the last decade or so, especially as Patrick Mahomes becomes, the team itself becomes more successful. And I think Patrick Mahomes eventually started to annoy some people. But yeah, no, I think that there's something to that adds a little bit of spice to it, especially like with the Cowboys and what they did leading up to the season, like trading Micah Parsons just days before the season starts. And it seemed like the arrogance and honestly some of the sliminess that went along with that. Jerry trying to negotiate a contract with a player and ice out the agent and fool the player into thinking that they agreed on something that they didn't agree on because the agent wasn't there, and that's how it actually works. Like I think a lot of people, obviously hate the Cowboys to begin with, but even if you were objective about it, that was off. That everything about that Micah Parsons thing I thought was off putting. So yeah, I think people were glad to see the Cowboys lose, even people that weren't already glad to see the Cowboys lose. Um, and yeah, I think people are definitely starting to have some Chiefs fatigue. Like I was in a bar the other day, and they were replaying the Super Bowl, and like some of us have forgotten badly how badly the Eagles had beaten up on on the Chiefs at that Super Bowl. Like, damn, they didn't score. Like they didn't really score no points until real late in the game, and really it was a lot of garbage points that they scored to begin with. Like a lot of people forgot, but I think a lot of people had fun watching that. Like not necessarily rooting for the Eagles, but against the Chiefs and rooting for the Chiefs to lose. So, uh, so yeah, want to shout out Senor Buble for coming through. Appreciate it. Um, Astros back in here. I'm saying Eagles are beating Chiefs next week. They can't top Barkley, and Hurts runs after that Herbert play. Yeah, no, I look I honestly think that the Eagles are the best team in football. I would even, everybody that hate the Cowboys, you're not gonna like me saying this. I would even say that the Cowboys played way, way, way better than I expected, given what their roster looks like. Like that is a team that I wasn't probably given enough credit for. Maybe I just need to give them more credit for how they looked against what is clearly the best team in football. But yeah, says hating on the hating on the Cry Girls every week. I respect it. I understand. I respect it. But yeah, no. So look, I do want to talk about that Cowboys game. How about the fact that Jalen Carter uh could have cost the Eagles that game? And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, man. Part of me was rooting for the Cowboys at that point because I thought that was so dumb and so ridiculous to do to start a game before the game could even really get going. That I wanted, I wanted the Cowboys to win. Like I wanted them to win, and then when the game plays out, as the game plays out, Jalen Carter's not there, and the Cowboys are like, you know what? Looks like we can just run to where he ain't. And that's what they did. I'm like, oh my God, the formula now, whereas the strategy before was going to be account for this guy, maybe even run plays away from this guy, like keep in account that this guy is on the other side. Like always know where Jalen Carter is to, oh, he's not there. That's exactly where we're going to run the ball. To have to change the strategy like that on the fly and it be that of all things, like, man, their best player, mind you, a defense that was already hit, right? Like, they lost Darius Slay, or at least cut him. They traded away CJ Gardner Johnson, who's with the Texans now. Lost a number of players on that defense, and then Jalen Carter is obviously the best among them, returning, and I think even in a contract year, if I'm not mistaken, or at least very close to it, and they lose him. They lose him. So uh, that was that was rough for the Eagles, but y'all know how I am on this, man. I've been pretty vocal. Like, I feel like there is no punishment too steep for what Jalen Carter did. Like, I know there was a lot of back and forth on Dak Prescott spitting first and spitting in his direction and maybe baiting him into doing that. I want to point this out about that. I think this is important. Even if Dak Prescott spat in his direction and baited him into spitting on him, the reality is that Dak did not spit on him. And here's the other thing: if Dak had spit on Jalen Carter, the response would not have been, yeah. Look, I'm not gonna pretend to know Jalen Carter well, um, or at all for that matter. But from what we understand of Jalen Carter, if Dak had, first of all, Dak ain't spitting on Jalen Carter. He know better than that. If he had, it's over 24 hours later, and folks would still be having to pull Jalen Carter off of Dak Prescott's ass if that had happened, and y'all know it. So it's not the same. It's not the same. If Dak had actually done what Jalen Carter did, that would have been his ass. Y'all know it. So there is a difference. Why it was Jalen Carter felt like he needed to take it there, why he needed to go that extra mile and actually spit on that man, I do not know. But y'all know how I feel about it, man. There is no punishment too steep. No punishment too steep for a dude that spits on another man. You could come up with any headline about what happened to Jalen Carter after this. What happened to Jalen Carter after he spit on another man? Any headline, any result. Senor Buble say Dak looked like an undercover cop yesterday. Hey, look, it might be something to that. I'm not ruling out that he ain't or that he is an undercover cop. He might be one. Dak donates to the police. He's a both sideser. He could be the police. See, Dak ain't do nothing. What was he gonna do? What do what? At that point, Jalen Carter had done all of the damage. Like, bad enough that he spat on the man, but also, you out of here, buddy. Because why you dumb enough to do that? Like, not in a scrum, not off to the side to where nobody said. Like, he walked up to their huddle, walked up to the line of scrimmage, which again is attention grabbing, because it's like, oh, that's Jalen Carter. Why is he walking up? This is Eagles Cowboys. Why is he walking up to Dak? And then in front of God and everybody, just spat on that man. Nah, Dak didn't do nothing. He would have been a fool to try to do something, but also the damage had been done at that point. Not a fan, but they did play better than I expected. Yeah, man, I wasn't expecting nothing from the Cowboys, man. Wasn't expecting nothing from them at all. So, um, so yeah. Oh, I didn't get to this. Y'all gotta forgive me. I moved through this too quickly. But how about how about the best part of the game? Let me take this down real quick, actually. Going back to this Chargers Chiefs game, y'all know what the highlight was? Hold on, let me actually tell people that we're going to talk about this before we do it. Now, the podcast audio only listeners are not going to enjoy this, but y'all going to have to bear with me since we're live. I'm going to tell you my favorite part of the Chiefs Chargers game. And let's see. I can't believe I forgot about this. And I didn't even bother to like write it down because I knew that I just knew that I was going to come to this. So I'm shocked that it took me this long. And some people are not going to like this. I ain't really like trying to, get into your political leanings, get you to lean into whatever my political leanings. We're not doing that. I'm just talking about for effect, for sticking a landing, for as far as a one-liner. Okay. Highlight of this game for me. Okay. And it is non-football. Non-football. It's on here. It's second half. Okay. And Harrison Butker is up there. The Chiefs have just scored a touchdown in the third quarter. Okay. They go in there, they march down the field. And that's another thing about the Chiefs, just as a side note, how, man, they was out there with them long, methodical drives, man. They're scoring drives like 16 plays on that field goal drive right in the second quarter. 11 plays, I think, on that touchdown drive in the third quarter. And then Harrison Butker gets up there and misses the field goal. Rich Eisen gives you the Harrison Butker, interestingly enough, wide right. Like, who caught that? Hopefully everybody caught that. Did that get by anybody? Like, it was subtle enough, but also obvious enough, right? Like it didn't need to be explained, at least not to me. I don't feel like it needed to be explained, but it also was not just like, subtle enough that it wasn't like this obvious dig. But interestingly enough, Harrison Butker, wide right. Come on, man. Hey, Rich Eisen, dog. Like, that was the moment of the game. That was the moment of the game because it was just such a perfectly placed zinger. And Harrison Butker, who's a really good kicker, like, I mean, you needed him to miss wide right to even have this opportunity to say this. And it wasn't even a field goal. It's a PAT. It's a chip shot. It's a sure thing. So the odds that you even gonna get that is low. And it's Harrison Butker. Interestingly enough, wide right. Go check that out. Senor Buble say you missed that. Go check that out, man. That was the best part of the game. Best part of the game. You got Justin Herbert out there doing his thing. Patrick Mahomes connects with Travis Kelce. Looks like they're gonna come back and maybe walk down the Chargers, who have been outplaying them for the majority of the game. Looked like it wasn't gonna matter. It had kind of these swings. It was at least competitive enough. Good game, but Rich Eisen with the zinger, man. Harrison Butker, wide right, highlighted the game for me. Senor Buble says that Rich had that one in the holster. He had to have at some point. I do wonder. I wish I could talk to more play-by-play guys about this. Like, do you have some that you just know are there? I'm sure they do. They got plenty that they just know are there. And if I get a chance to bring this out, I'm gonna bring this out, even if it's however unlikely it might be. I'm gonna bring this out if I get a chance to bring this out. Had to have, had to have. But yeah, favorite moment of the game. Harrison Bucker, wide right, and look, that's not me trying to be some like sensitive ass bleeding heart. Nah, I just thought that shit was funny. I just thought that shit was. I don't look. I thought I do think some of the stuff that Harrison Bucker has said in public is a little silly. But I'm also not, and maybe even damaging the women. But I'm also not like out here to be crying or mad about it. And like I don't. I'm not. But that was funny. Um. All right. So we've been on here a half hour already. I appreciate the few people that were able to join us and interact. I'm gonna try to do these more. I'm trying to give a little bit more of a head notice that these things are gonna be happening. But but I like these lives. They are fun. Not just a cool way to kill time, but you got these thoughts and feelings coming straight off of a game. You want to share them. So without further ado, let's take this to Texans-Rams and what I'm really looking after. I feel like it's an obvious one, and we heard from D'Amico Ryans earlier in the week talking about this matchup, and I actually thought he was spot on from the football standpoint of this, of just like what the matchup is. I do think it's going to come down to which offensive line is going to be able to hold up against the opposite defensive line that they're going against, because there are dogs on both. There are issues on both. And so I think that the Rams defensive line is going to have a tough time with Will Anderson Jr., Daniil Hunter, the the cast of guys that they got on the inside, and some of the mixing and matching that they're able to do. They got a lot of depth on that defensive line. And then Jared Verse is just a force of nature. Uh, and I think that's going to be an issue for the Texans. Look, the Ariante Ursery Jared Verse matchup is gonna be it's very much like inside football of like, okay, not just Jared Verse, but like Ariante Ursery as the rookie left tackle who wasn't even supposed to necessarily have that job, right? And you got to really be following it to know and understand all of that and understand, hey, why this is important. That you got one of the better players at this position, one of the better edge rushers in the entire game, is going to go up against a rookie who was not expected to be playing at that position when they enter camp, and it's only there because a dude got hurt, and he's been thrust into that position, and he's actually shown an ability to handle it, right? But I mean, when we're talking about Braden Fisk, Poona Ford, uh, and obviously Jared Verse. They got Byron Young. Like they have some guys who can wreck a game. And so how is this remade Texans offensive line going to handle that? How do y'all feel about that? How do y'all feel about the Texans offensive line based off of what you've seen from training camp, what you've seen from the preseason? How do you feel like they measure up against an actual formidable defensive line? Because or a formidable front in general. Because look, when we were getting the reports out of training camp, and I was out there for a handful of practices, it did not look great again for the Texans offensive line against an elite defensive front, which the Texans also have on the other side. Did not look great for them. Now, when they went up against the Carolina Panthers, that was different. When they went up against uh when they went up against the Detroit Lions, that was different. Getting messages in the middle. It's funny when somebody know you on live and they text you anyway. Hey, drop your comments in the chat. You know who you are. Uh, yeah. So, what does it look like when they go up against a formidable, actual game wrecking defensive line? Are they ready and they up for the challenge? Now, I feel so much better about about this offensive line than I did going into training camp, going into the preseason. Ariante Ursary looks the part. The Ed I saw that Ed Ingram showed up on the injury report late in the week, and I'm not really sure what that's all about. But I don't love that. I don't love that because regardless of the fact that Ed Ingram had fallen out of favor in Minnesota, I thought his time here, from the little bit of sample size of what I've seen since he's been here, they've upgraded at right guard. If Ed Ingram is the guy, they've upgraded at right guard. I think they've upgraded at right guard, even if Juice Scruggs ends up being the guy. Okay. Like if Ed Ingram is hurt and they got to put Juice Scruggs out there, like I think they're better at right guard now than they were with an aging Shaq Mason who just didn't seem like he could really move no more. He was fine his first year, not great, but fine his first year here, and then that next year, which was last year, I mean, it kind of just fell off a cliff. One of the worst guards in the league, if we're being honest. And then at left guard, Laken Tomlinson has been a kind of a steady Eddie. I know his like recent tape isn't necessarily as good as his earlier tape. The point where he was a Pro Bowl left tackle, or I'm sorry, left guard, 4 years ago or whatever it was. And I'm not saying that he's like back to Pro Bowl form, but he's looked fine. He's been a non-issue out there. Jake Andrews, I like a lot. You want to talk about tone setting, physicality, smash mouth, swarm mentality, all of that, all of them little cliches and catchphrases that they want to give out there. He fits the bill. So I feel a lot better about the offensive line based off of what I've seen, but I still have not seen them against anything quite like what the Rams are. So I'm interested to watch that. On the other side of it, Will Anderson, like we're gonna get to unleash Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter on a Matthew Stafford that has been dealing with back pain and back problems going into year 17. I want to say I heard something about him having epidurals. Matthew Stafford been having epidurals. Y'all seen that? And he gonna try to run away from Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. Oh, Jalen Petrie gonna be out there ready to take somebody's head off. Oh, don't let Azeez Al-Shaair get a free shot at him. Like for as much as you may be worried about the Texans offense going up against the Rams defensive front, you should be equally concerned for the Rams offense going up against the Texans defensive front. Now, where's the difference at? Because like these things are very similar. We got, as I mentioned before, as D'Amico Ryans mentioned before, like it's about which O-line can match up better against the defensive fronts. Well, so I thought the difference was going to be like how the offenses actually attack those defenses and who has the pieces to make a difference. Okay, obviously the Rams are going to come out there with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. Okay, and like that's a pretty good start. I feel like that's a pretty good start for them. Tutu Atwell from Tyler Higbee. Like they got players. Okay, but quarterback is limited. Been hurt. C.J. Stroud's got Nico Collins, right? What he doesn't have, and what I am worried about, is this Christian Kirk injury, right? Christian Kirk out for the opener, probably out for the second game of the season, more than likely. I thought that was going to be, and still do once he gets back. I think that's going to be a very important piece for CJ Stroud as a safety valve, as a reliable target, sure-handed. The only issue and the main issue with Christian Kirk is staying healthy. So that is a concern. That's an issue. But I do like the Texans' chances. Based off of their own defense and based off of what I've seen in improvement wise from the offensive line. I'll leave y'all with this when it comes down to the Texans. Okay. And just look, we'll do this now. I'm picking the Texans to win at 24-20. All right. Should I change that? Should I get this on the record on the banner? Prediction. Texans beat Rams 24-20 in season opener. Let's get this on the record. All right, let's put this up so y'all see it. Prediction: Texans beat Rams 24-20 in the season opener. Okay, I'm going with that. I know that when the schedule came out well before the season, I chalked this up as a loss. I have allowed myself to talk myself into what the Texans can actually do and actually be against this team. But I want to go back to this comment from Senior Buble real quick, or he just left this here. We get to throw them youngsters in the water. That's exactly it. This is what I want to end on. Okay. And I talked about this on the radio a little bit, but this is what I'm on, man. These rookies that the Texans just drafted, your time is now, man. You are on a team. This is not a Texans team of yesteryear. Of course, no, and why would you even know about that? But you are on a team that relies on rookies, that is not shy about giving rookies an opportunity, about giving rookies responsibility. And that's what this is about to be. Like, I did not anticipate that the Texans would be this reliant upon their rookies going into the season as they clearly are going to be. I mentioned Ariante Ursary earlier in the show, and like that's the big matchup of this game. The rookie left tackle going up against Jared Verse, the reigning NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, who like led the league in pressures or something like that, is a menace. The way that people talk about this dude and how, you know, his bull rush or his speed rush, or how like just how powerful he is, how he's something different. That's going to be Ariante Ursary's introduction into regular season NFL football, is going up against Jared Verse. What a challenge. What a baptism by fire. Going to Senior Bublé's point here, we get to throw them youngsters in the water. That's how you teach a motherfucker how to swim right there. So you got Ariante Ursary. The Christian Kirk injury. Who does that mean you're going to rely on more? Jalen Noel as both a slot receiver, and I don't know if I even mentioned Braxton Berrios, but that's one of your lead, your top return men. So in the kicking game, in the return game, Jalen Noel is going to factor more into both the slot receiver role and the kicking game, the return game, because both of those guys are out, relying on that guy. They've penciled Jaden Higgins in as the receiver opposite of Nico Collins. I imagine that he's going to have a prominent role. I'd have a tough time seeing him not. We've had some debate at the station about Woody Marks and how prominent of a role is Woody Marks going to have on this offense or with this offense. But with Joe Mixon out, I honestly don't see how he doesn't have one. There's not a guy in that running back room right now, and maybe they just view Nick Chubb differently. I hope, and this is not a knock on Nick Chubb. I hope to God that they're not gonna try to treat Nick Chubb like he's Joe Mixon of last year, right? Like you need a running back room that is a committee at this point. You need all of these guys, I think, from Chubb to Marks to Pierce and a Goomba Wale to whatever degree, to whatever degree they feel like he can help. But it shouldn't be like there. You don't look at this running back group and see a bell cow at this point. I understand Nick Chubb is who he is and could be a bell cow theoretically, but he's been injured and is aging. You don't want to treat him like that. I feel like to maximize the Nick Chubb experience, you don't need to be out here treating him like he's Joe Mixon. And so insert Woody Marks. Insert Woody Marks as somebody who probably runs it between the tackles better than he's given credit for, as regarded as a third down option, catching it out of the backfield. This kind of his specialty, what he does now. I mean, I think he's a much more well-rounded running back than he's given credit for, or than what he's talked about. So we've gone down the list: Ariante Ursary, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, Woody Marks. I mean, that's four rookies right there that I think that they're going to have to rely on pretty heavily, pretty early on in the season. And we didn't even get to Jalen Smith. What is Jalen Smith's role going to be as a backup corner on this team? That means you're just a piece, an injury away from him having to play. Whether that's in the slot, whether it's on the outside, an injury away from him having to play. And it feels like, I don't think it's just because they draft. It feels like, based off of what we've seen from camp and what we understand about him, like he's another one that you can feel pretty good about in that role. So, well, that's 4 or 5 rookies right there. Ursary, Noel, Higgins, Marks, Smith. 5 of them right there that I feel like you're going to rely on. Okay. Luke Lachey is on the practice squad, but they only brought they only got 2 tight ends on the active roster. And I saw them using Luke Lachey in some particular ways in camp that made me think that they like him for the type of offense that they're trying to run and the type of physicality they're trying to establish. So shout out to the rookies because they're going to need you. And again, I mentioned this. I think that the Texans have done an incredible job drafting. And I think that their rookies have done an incredible job over the past couple of years of stepping up right away and stepping into roles right away and not really looking like rookies. So to that end, it's not like you got to really worry about how rookies handle themselves with the Texans or how the Texans handle rookies. My whole point is just that I wasn't expecting the rookies to be as prominent as they are coming in. Texans, if you look overall, are not necessarily a super young team. They got a lot of young, high-end talent, but overall, it's not a super young team. They got enough veterans to kind of carry them through. But you look up, and Cam Robinson gets hurt. Boom. Ariante Ursary got to step up and be ready to be the left tackle. You look up, Joe Mixon, whatever's going on with the injury that's kept him out the whole offseason program. Boom. Woody Marks, older rookie, experienced rookie in terms of college experience, played a lot. Boom, we need you. The Iowa State receivers, hey, they look. Matt Campbell's got you guys ready to be pros. We've seen that to some degree already with Xavier Hutchinson, who was a later round pick to both of y'all. Boom. Y'all instant contributors. This is a team that's lacking wide receiver depth and skill to begin with. Boom, let's go. I didn't anticipate it. So we'll see how that goes. How do the rookies look both in this game and just kind of going forward as not supplements, but needed pieces to this team? Needed, necessary pieces to this team. That's the big thing that I'm watching out for. So, yeah, man, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. This was fun. I enjoyed this. We're going to try to do this more. I always say that whenever I do it. and then don't end up doing it more. I'm gonna try to make it a little bit different this time. Also planning them out, letting y'all know that we're gonna be out here. But the regular schedule is to record twice a week. The Be Black Podcast. You can get us wherever it is that you get your podcast. You can also catch us on YouTube. If you're listening on the audio only, we want y'all to come and join the conversation on YouTube as well. We want to shout out Foolish Club Media for the partnership and for the support. Love what the folks are doing over there. And also, like, if you want some pretty good and insightful Chiefs commentary, Chiefs Chargers commentary coming off of this game. Obviously, you just kicked it with me, but you want to check out what they're doing as well. A lot of Kansas City folks, a lot of Chiefs fans, a lot of real good Chiefs voices, authority Chiefs voices over at Foolish Club, and the good folks that they know that they bring in on their respective programs. So check them out. Make sure you check us out. We're gonna do this again. Let's see. It's Friday night. We got a game Sunday. Let's do this again Sunday night, shall we? See how it goes. Obviously, there's a workflow, there's a work schedule that's got to be adhered to. We'll see what time we're able to do this, but let's plan to do this sometime on Sunday night. Just a little kickback, little check-in, kickback, react to the Texans season opener, however it goes, win or lose. Let's do this, and we can make it therapeutic. Again, it could just be a kickback. We can go like super hyper analysis, however it is, whatever the vibes are coming off of that game, we will come in for a vibes check-in, and I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, man. Until next time, man. I really enjoy it. Really enjoy every time y'all come out and support the program. Make sure that you subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. And until next time, man, y'all be good.